Hello friends, welcome back. On my last story I was talking about my trip to the South Pole, Antarctica with Nicole, getting to live down there for 5 months. And what an amazing opportunity that was. That was something that I never would have known that would be interesting to my heart. But, once again, God was showing me that He knew my heart and He knew things that would be interesting to me, and just kind of dumped this thing on my lap. So it was an amazing thing to get to experience, especially building the telescope and going there with my wife and being on the same shift with her. Like, everything was so amazing. And it was time for the adventure to continue. So on this video, I'll talk about kind of what we did with that money that we saved up working in Antarctica. We decided to take this random, totally impromptu trip to Israel, and we had both been feeling like, for whatever reason, we're supposed to maybe go there. We didn't really know what to do with it, but Israel is on both of our hearts, so we decided to just get tickets and go. And I just kind of did like what I did in Honduras. I just got like a one-way ticket, and we just would figure it out as we went. So now, as we were flying down, we got to the Chicago airport. I found this random connection. My dad knew someone that knew someone that knew someone that was living in Jerusalem, that was willing to, to kind of show us around for a little bit. Her name was Kay. So we kind of made that connection in Chicago en route. And as soon as we got to Tel Aviv, apparently this is like a big deal to get a one-way ticket. Like, you're supposed to have a tourist visa or at least a return trip ticket or something. Israel has way higher security of an airport than America does. So that, having people come in that kind of style was generally not accepted at all. So we both got interrogated separately in separate rooms, especially me, because I had like visas from Pakistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and my passport that I had just been to. So they were asking me about who I was in contact with down there. But somehow we got in. We would find out later how ridiculous it was that we got in. Like, as we made friends down there, they told us like there is no way that we should have been allowed in with no plan and no visa and no return trip ticket. But anyway, we did get in. I felt like we were supposed to be there, so whatever. We went into Jerusalem and met up with this lady Kay, and she let us stay at her place for a few days. And the first night was immediately fascinating. Nicole and I were like super sleep deprived, and Kay took us to this symphonic performance of Handels Messiah. And this was a historic event. It was being put together. The conductor's name was Icej David, and he was like this. We would become friends with this guy later. It was a fascinating situation. But this was the first time the Handels Messiah was going to be performed in Hebrew, which, Isaiah 53 and all that stuff, it's in Hebrew. It's written in Hebrew. So this is the first time that it was going to be performed in the language that was originally written in the Bible. So this was like this very interesting situation. So Nicole and I got to go to this performance, and we were both like super sleep deprived, and I remember us just like nodding off. We hadn't been able to sleep on the plane ride over, and we were all jet lagged, but we got introduced to Turkish coffee, and I didn't know about all the grounds in the bottom, so it was kind of gross, but it helped wake me up. And then at the end of the performance, I don't know how this happened, but we got to meet Aryeh, who was the conductor, and I'm not sure how that happened or why we were even talking to him or why he was talking to us. And then he just, for some reason, offered Nicole and I both jobs working at the Moshav, where he lived, with him and his family and his relatives. And I don't know how that even happened, except that, except that God was just lining up all these details. Like, we were just literally doing nothing. It was strange. But he told us about the work they did up there. They had a little carpentry shop, and they had ran a bed and breakfast kind of thing, and a tourist agency. So we're like, awesome, sounds good. We'll go work for you. We had to do some paperwork to be able to work up at this Moshav Yad Hashmona. It was up in the Judean hills. And we stayed with Kay for a few days and kind of got a lay of the land. We started, doing little walks around Jerusalem and taking it all in. Nicole and I got this opportunity to go work at Yad Hashmona. So this was a fascinating first place to go live. They were able to arrange a volunteer visa for us, so we were able to stay up there for, I think, as long as we wanted. and I was going to work in the carpentry shop building furniture, and Nicole is going to get to work at the bed and breakfast, just kind of doing more like hostess duties and doing the turnover for the beds, and working, you know, on the kitchen staff and doing all sorts of things like that. And I was going to be kind of doing maintenance details. Yad Hashmona is right across the street from Kiryat Yearim, which is like a famous biblical place where the Ark of the Covenant was, and the Judean hills where we were. There's a bunch of caves and stuff like that. So when you read in the Psalms about King David like hiding out in the caves, like these were the caves, like this is where he was, like up in these hills. It was kind of an interesting place to be. I'd go mountain biking in these hills. It was kind of wild. We met lots of other kids that were living up there too. This was they had sort of like a volunteer operation up there, so there was some other kids from America, and then from all over Europe and Japan and Finland and Africa and wherever. People were there doing different volunteering types of things, and I got to work in the furniture shop, and I would build this furniture and then go to Tel Aviv. There was this big hotel that they were helping build and put in all the furniture for it. So I got to participate in this really fascinating operation installing furniture. Nicole and I arrived in Israel not really knowing anything about their feasts or different Jewish religious holidays, or, you know, any of the tension between, you know, Palestinians and Jews, or any of that drama. Like, we knew nothing about any of that stuff. So we got like first-hand observation and experience with all that, and it was really interesting. My observation was that everyone gets along very well, because you have to, like the Palestinians were their neighbors. My boss was a Palestinian in Tel Aviv. I was building all the furniture and stuff, and so I was working with him every day. And then most of our crew were also Palestinians, so everybody there kind of speaks Hebrew and Arabic and English, so that helped me. I didn't really learn much Hebrew or Arabic, and we got to take lots of great tours around. You know, it's the Holy Land. It's the famous place where like all these stories in the Bible kind of come to life. So we made some great friends there. Our special friends there was this couple, Damaris and Jonathan. And Jonathan was like this IDF soldier, and Damaris had been working as a volunteer there, but they were like our age, and we just kind of we sort of related with them on some aspects, I guess. But they were training to be tour guides, so they would practice on us and take us on all these little tours around Israel, and we'd get to go see, you know, the Dead Sea or En Gedi or wherever, all these famous places in the Bible, and just had fun little adventures with them. We also got to know Aryeh a lot better. He was the conductor for that famous performance of Handel's Messiah, and he was also kind of the patriarch of Yad Hashmona. He was this famous guy from like the Yom Kippur War. He's this soldier that told us all these amazing stories. Like if you've ever read some of the stories from David or whatever, like all these famous biblical characters, how they just won against insurmountable odds. Like as Aryeh would tell us stories about him and just some understaffed little crew that would come in during the Yom Kippur War, and like how they were able to win in these epic battles. It sounded like I was hearing some kind of Bible story. He was telling about this one story where he and some other guys went up to the top of this hill, and there's this huge platoon of soldiers that were just machine gunning them down, and somehow, even though they were like right in front of them, they just completely missed. You could hear all the bullets and like all the branches falling down, but like none of the bullets like hit them, and so they were able to go in and just like totally take them over. But he was also a tour operator, and of course he had all sorts of amazing stories to tell. So we got to participate. Nicole and I we ended up working as the camp cook. So we were in the Jordan River Valley. It was like super hot. I remember it was like one of the hottest temperatures I've ever experienced, which was really weird. We went from the coldest place on earth to the hottest place on earth, and we were like camping in both situations. But we were like cooking over this fire and you know, making food for this different tour companies that would come in and tour around the areas, and we got to participate and see all sorts of places like Masada or go to Jericho or whatever. It was pretty interesting stuff. So it was really interesting being at Yad Hashmona, because this is As far as I know, the only Messianic Jewish moshav, or it's like a kibbutz, I guess. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but like Messianic Jew meaning like a Christian Jew. So being there, we met basically all the other Messianic Jews in the country. It felt like it's a very small community. But anyway, since we were kind of in with this group, we got to meet all sorts of interesting people, and we also got to meet some people that were working at this place in Jerusalem called the International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem. And I guess their whole thing was they're trying to basically repair the image of Christianity to the Jewish people. Their sort of mission is to love the Jewish people and to tell them, like, okay, I know you guys have thought like the Christians are Nazis and, you know, from the Crusades and like all this horrible history that the Jewish people have had with Christians throughout the millennia. The kind of their mission is to repair that. So they participate in things like Jerusalem Day, which is this big parade, and they they give to Holocaust survivors, and they put on these different performances, and they're basically there to just be a support. It's a volunteer network to be an aid to the Jewish people in whatever way that they can be. So we got to meet with this lady named Leslie, and she was working in the kitchen for this place, and she kind of told us about their operation and that we should come check it out. So we did. We got to go meet this guy Malcolm from South Africa, and he was kind of running the organization. And we both, Nicole and I, both got jobs working for them. This was volunteer again, of course. But so after about 4 months of working at Yad Hashmona and having a great time up there, we took this new volunteer opportunity to go work at the International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem, right in the German quarter of Jerusalem. And they actually put us up in our own little apartment, which was awesome. So we got to be right in the center of it all, just living down there with just whatever, all the different fascinating activities going around surrounding the feasts and amongst the Orthodox Jewish community. I remember once we got invited to go to like a Shabbat meal with this Orthodox Jew named Gerald Schroeder. He's this famous author, and I had randomly written him. He had this really interesting book that I'd picked up at the South Pole in their library and read, and I was like, oh, hey, he lives in Jerusalem and we're going there. So I just had randomly written him an email, and he got back in touch with me and said, hey, well, if you want to come by for a Shabbat meal, come on over. So Nicole and I got to go experience that, and that was cool. So Nicole and I started our work at the Icej. I got to work as the maintenance guy. Nicole got to work in the kitchen and work with all these different internationals from all over Europe and some Americans. And it was just a really interesting time. We did a lot of walking. We'd walk all the way to the Shuk to get our groceries, and walk all the way into the old city. And the old city is fascinating. What you see there is, I think, from over 1,000 years old or something. And then there's, of course, the retaining wall for the temple, which is Solomon's temple, and that's been there for thousands of years. That's where the Wailing Wall is. And we went to like little classes to learn Hebrew. We participated in all these different feasts. So I guess the ICEJ, their big thing is the Feast of Tabernacles, and they celebrate all the feasts, but they have this like huge party and invite speakers. But we had this big like celebration or whatever at the Dead Sea, and I got to build this big stage set. They had this like big play or something for the walls of Jericho. So after about 3 months there, we discovered that Nicole was pregnant. And this was actually great news for us, and we told everyone at the ICEJ staff, and they were all very happy for us. And we basically had an unending invitation to continue working down there for up to 2 years if we wanted to. And we considered it. We were like, well, it'd be awesome to have our kid have dual citizenship to Israel, because if you're born in Israel, then you kind of get grandfathered in. But in the end, we decided now we're going to go back to America, and we'll try something different. It had been a fascinating 7-month experience there. We'd gotten to experience all the feasts in the grandest style possible, and celebrating it with Jews and with the few Christians that were there as well. So, but after our 7 months, it was about October, November, we decided we were gonna head back to America and start the next chapter in life. So in the next chapter, I had a lot of different ideas. I would end up going back to tower work for a little bit, working in New York, and then eventually starting work as a helicopter pilot. So we'll pick up the story next time. Thanks.